listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hello.
Let's start with moments of the week, and what a week. Paul, you kick us off.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to have Biamu's first league goal as your moment of the week. However, I have a heart of stone.
Yeah.
So he's relegated to fourth in my moments of the week. Now, third moment of the week is the amazing Leeds badge, which they promoted today.
Oh, man.
Ooh,
Neil, have you seen it?
Yeah, I have, and I've enjoyed everything about it, including all the memes coming out as well. They've been incredible.
I haven't seen anything of that. I've heard that they've said that over 6 months they consulted with 10,000 people to come up with that badge. What a load of cosmo.
It is. I mean, I'm assuming everyone would have seen it by now. If you haven't, it's an astounding bit of just what the hell is that? And it was like, we're going to have this badge for the next 100 years. And you were like,
yeah, good luck with that.
You're not going to have that for the next 100 minutes. People are ripping you. So that was number 3. Number 2 was the Notts County keeper
who
decided to kick the Crawley player up the arse.
Yes, I saw that as well. That was phenomenal. Well played.
It's probably worth talking about that in the context of why it's good for us, is that we, before Swindon, were saying we lose this game and they go level on points with us with a game in hand, and we don't play on Saturday, and so blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then we sort of idly looked at where Notts County were and thought, if things go a different way, you might be able to pull them into it. And we're now, on Wednesday? And they're right back in it, aren't they? From being in a position where they should have been fine. But it really, really felt like something that would happen to Cov and that we'd be looking back on to the whole sequence of events, the kick up the arse, the sending off, and the penalty. You just think, my God, you're going to be ruining that at the end of the season, aren't you?
I mean, their form has gone off. I think they've won from one of the last 5 or something. Their form has dramatically fallen off a cliff.
We've got a game in hand on them, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think we have,
So we win that game in hand, we go within 1 point. And the other thing, I mean, Crawley's form is quite phenomenal in recent weeks. But, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, they put in a corner in the 90th minute. The keeper catches it. And you're like, well, that's it. No danger. And then for some reason, he just kicks this player up the arse. And you're like, he's not Bishop Brennan. There's no reason to do this. And then Crawley scored a penalty. It's a bit like the other week where Carl Reid did one of his finest moments in the Cov shirt when he got sent off for Colchester. Because at that point, Colchester were level on points with us. And then when he got hammered, and, they're sort of hit them quite hard, that defeat. They've really dropped off. So you wonder what's going through people's minds. Anyway, my moment of the week is got to be Cov related. And I know he got a bit of stick after the Exeter defeat, but I thought Lee Burge again was magnificent on Saturday. And there were 2 saves. The point blank save in one of the goalmouth scrambles is amazing. But also his save in the end of the first half, where he tips the ball onto the bar.
Yes.
I'm pretty certain it's a save.
Definitely.
Yeah, at that point, we were properly rocking. The defence were abysmal at that point. We'll discuss this during the game. That for 5 minutes at the end of that half, the defence went to pot. And after a really, really poor clearance by Jordan Willis, which was just quite hopeless, the guy hit an absolute screamer, and luckily Burge, because I think if that had gone in, they got it back to 2-2 just for half time. It could have been a different second half. So I think, Burge deserves the criticism when he gets things wrong. But again, on Saturday, I think he, as much as anyone, earned us 3 points.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I would agree. I thought he had a great game.
They were cheering that. They thought it was a goal. Their fans, that save they made the first half. It was just, you hear the massive cheer, and then that fingertip just knocks it onto the bar. And like you say, I mean, that would have sent them into an eruption, but luckily for us, it didn't. That tailed off quickly, didn't it? Sorry, guys.
No, it was fabulous.
I really should have committed to that. No.
Let's seg it straight into your moment of the week. How about that?
Yeah, let's try that. Just to hark back to the Leeds United badge. Of all the funniness, I thought Aston Villa's. I don't know if you've seen their piss take of it.
Yeah, that's quite good.
very good. Because obviously the thing is, it looks like a Pro Evo. It looks like something from like their front cover.
Yeah, right.
So check out what Villa have done. Just taking a little bit of the mick out of it. It's very good. I work in social media, and I long for the day when I come up with something as funny as that. So good on them. I'm allowed to say that, aren't I?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through gritted teeth, we still hate them. You're still scum, Villa, but that was funny.
That was
Is it
good.
something
yes.
they've done on their official Twitter thing or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll explain it. Essentially, they've because Pro Evo is renowned for obviously coming up with fake names and stuff. They basically promoted their forthcoming game with Leeds using both their fake name, which is West Village, whatever it is, and then Leeds' fake name and the fake badges and all that sort of shit. And it's just really funny.
That's
it's really well done.
Nice. Yes, was that your moment of the week or?
No, it's not. I just threw that one in there because it's very good. My moment of the week actually is. I mean, I wasn't on last week, but I obviously listened, and there was a large focus on Cyril Regis. My moment of the week is actually just a film that they put out on Saturday. So at half time, just being able to watch that. I'd never really seen him play aside from sort of VHSs and that sort of stuff. Watching him back, but it was just nice to kind of have that moment and kind of watch it, and it was just really, really well done. And looking over towards the away fans as well, they were all kind of just respecting that and watching it as well. So it was just kind of a congratulation to the club. It was just a really sort of well put together, really nice sort of film. So that's my moment of the week, really. Just how nicely that was done, and it was just it was quite poignant and just really, really nice. There we go.
Just really classily handled from start to finish, wasn't it? I thought that, just a great tribute. I will go for. I mean, I was going to reference the Notts County arse kick because I think that's going to be big for a lot of teams this season. Because I mean, you never know, do you? But it will be interesting to see at the end of the season where they finish, and it's got to have some bearing on it.
I would love it to have a massive bearing. I mean, we all have a go at Lee Burge, or we don't know, no, we don't, but people still have a go at Lee Burge for that time in the FA Cup where he did something daft. I mean, if you're a goalkeeper and you kick someone up the arse in the last minute of the game, that's going to live with you forever. And if that costs them something, and not that I'm like vindictive or anything, but that would be quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's only because we want to profit from their demise. Obviously, I don't want them to arbitrarily just, to mess up. But I'm hoping that we can overtake them because of it. Let me go on a bit of a tangent here and ask you two a quick question. For your sendings off, if it's something like that, would you rather see it be a bit more violent?
Yeah, if you're going to do it properly.
Because I sort of, I mean, for want of a better way of putting it, I don't like violence. Like, I think it's bad, I would say. Yeah. But if a player's going to get sent off for something like that, I do think I'd rather it be fully violent. And it's almost a bit disappointing. Yeah, I think it's a bit disappointing that it's a sort of little tap on the bum, isn't it? It's not really a hard lash out.
I mean, the guy doesn't even go down, does he?
No,
it's almost like he's used to being kicked.
Doesn't he?
In the arse.
He goes down, doesn't he?
I don't think he does. Does he? I thought he just carried on.
No, he goes to the ground. He's kind of rolling about, holding his bum.
What about you?
I only watched it once. I thought he just kicked him up the arse and he sort of just ran off, and the referee then sort of sent him off.
What about you, Paul? Would you take an adult approach to this, or would you rather see a grown man punch another full man in front of the face?
If you get sent off for violent conduct, you might as well go as violent as you possibly can.
Do a Roy Keane, yeah.
There's no point getting out.
Take a swing at Shearer. Do it.
Just take a swing at Shearer if you see him in the street.
Yeah. I remember watching a Middlesbrough Man United game when Ronaldo was there in his pomp, and I can't remember who the fullback was, but he was just getting absolutely tortured, and eventually he just snaps and just completely wipes Ronaldo out, but then just doesn't look back up, just gets straight back up and walks off. And I kind of go, if I'd have been a Middlesbrough fan, I'd have been like, fair dues. I mean, you couldn't just stand there and take that all game. You might as well get yourself off, yeah. But there was it. If you'd have tapped him, then you'd have been like, go on.
Neil's right. He does. He sort of rolls around. He's right next to the ref and sort of rolls around on the floor, looking at the ref, going, "He's just kicked me up the arse." If I was to really sort of take Villa's thing, if I was fell off. If I was domestic going on. If I was
Brilliant.
Real life.
yeah, if I was Crawley now, I'd just have a big picture of the goalkeeper kicking the player up the arse from a proper sort of Father Ted pistol.
Hang out outside the
That
stadium.
photo, yeah, you've got to have that photo, haven't you, Bishop Brennan, when he's looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, yeah, I think that's that then. Neil, I think we were all in the same boat, weren't we? That we had no hope of winning that game. Although you are a little bit less inclined towards form and statistics and all of that nonsense, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought we were going to win.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. It's one of those where we've shown already this season that there's no real logic to the game-by-game performances, and we can kind of pull good games out of the bag, especially against good teams as well, as and when we kind of see fit. So, especially after Exeter, which was a weird old match in itself, and we were so desperate to win that we didn't. This was very important. But I felt like we had a chance if players performed in a certain way, because I knew that Swindon were a good team, and a good team in this league's an odd one to kind of quantify, because sometimes it's kind of nice to look at, and sometimes it's just a bloody hard-working team, and they were kind of a mixture of both. They were a good team, but I think there's kind of a difference where attacking-wise in this league, I don't think there are any good attacking teams. Even Luton, they've scored goals, but there's a missing level of quality at this in this league, which is kind of shown across the board. But yeah, I mean, I just thought altogether it was a really well earned, hard fought, necessary victory as well. It was an odd game. It kind of reminded me a little bit like the Wickham game, where we kind of set our stall out. We got those goals to start with, and then the game can go one or either way, and you can either go mad and hit 4 or 5, or you can kind of look at the two and think this is something that we need to hold on to. And I feel like we do that quite a lot this season. We get that goal, or we get that second goal, and there's no real desire or no real kind of urgency to score more, and that opens us up, because I think while the numbers say that we've got a good defence, I think structurally we don't really have a very good looking defence. It's you look at the amount of shots where we're conceding, especially over the last couple of months. We are very open, and we had the same again against Swindon. But
their goal was, there's maybe 3 or 4 different points where you could pause it and say,
yeah,
this is horrendous. This is horrendous. In the build-up to it, each of the passes, the fact that the space that the players find themselves in is criminal.
It's just us saying, if you want to score a goal, it's here for you.
Yeah, pop it on, yeah.
What happens so often is they don't take advantage. And we've seen that we're the same. When we're attacking, we don't take advantage of the gaps that are open. But they did, and they got it was a well-worked goal, and it was an annoyingly timed goal, because, as Paul said earlier, it kind of, they were all out, their fans were on their big day out, and it set them up, and they all started sort of roaring away, and it just before half time, I mean, one of those where if they'd got a second then, I mean, it's hard to tell how the game would have gone. So it kind of, it was somewhat frustrating that we changed our approach. But just to go back to the beginning, because I think we started in a good way. So obviously Biamu got his goal, and it was an absolutely stunning goal. He obviously won header, an inadvertent knock back to him from the new guy, Maguire Drew, who everybody around me just seems to call Drew. I didn't realise it was that hard, but we'll go with it. And it was just, for your first goal, it was absolutely fantastic. There was something very Andy Rose about it. I don't know if you remember that goal that he scored. It might have been his first goal for us, actually. That sort of volley, it out of nowhere, you're not quite expecting it, and then they just hit it as sweetly as possible. And it was, I think it was just a lot of disbelief in the ground at that point. I stood there for a good couple of minutes with my arms outstretched, just wondering quite what had happened. Just to kind of, has this really happened? Has he just smashed it in from there? And it's a shame that it hasn't been captured quite as nicely as it should have been on camera, because especially the official feed, it missed it, which makes for a funny joke, but at the same time I wouldn't mind seeing that goal properly. So
I think it's actually Sky that missed it, and that the official feed gets it, but it is about it looks like the video was being recorded from the moon.
The iFile, our iFile feed.
I can't remember which one it is, but the club tweeted a thing that said someone might have missed it, but we didn't. But it is long way away. Like, it's a very long distance.
Do you still get a sense of what the goal was, or is it?
Yeah, you do.
Not you sort of don't, because the main thing about it, which is obviously the bit you missed from the Channel 5 thing, is you don't really see how close it gets to how well it is hit into the corner.
You love that, don't you? Into the corner.
I mean, basically, it's unstoppable, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
and you watch it, and again, from the far away one, because it's sort of so far away, you don't quite get how unstoppable it was. And it was just, as soon as he hit it, you were like, that's nestling. And you felt for Reece Charles Cook, it was on like his big return.
Yeah.
And all 3 goals were just completely unstoppable. That one was just almost, it's a bit of a tricky one, so I just sort of put in, but it's a bit of a tricky one for Biami, because it's amazing that he scored that fantastic goal, but as we were discussing at the time, he's unlikely ever to score a goal like that again in his career. And you're just like, would it have been better if his first goal had been bumbled underneath his arse, and then his next goal's that? And I know he has scored in the cup, but we're ignoring that because we're only focusing on the league. And it's just like, I hope that does give him the confidence that the next time he gets one of those chances, he hasn't really been hitting full. It's like that, he knows that he can score now. But, it's one of, go on.
Yeah, it's one of those where, because he's so far out, I think you can kind of commit to the shot a little bit more, and there's a little less pressure on him to score it. And, even people like Paul Williams have scored from outside the box before. It's, like you say, I'd like that sort of conviction in the box now. So hopefully he can harness that confidence, what he should have gained from that whole performance, and take that into when the chances come his way in the box, because they're just different opportunities. That was very much, let's just give it a go. It felt lovely for him. He just had to smash it. And if it doesn't go in, no issue. If he's on the penalty spot and it's a free shot, obviously he has to put it away, and if he doesn't, then there's bigger questions, and it's weird how football works like that. But it's kind of an interesting one now, how he takes that confidence and how that sort of moves him forward. And I've got a suspicion that we've all said that his footballing sort of general play has been good recently. To get that goal on top of it now, and on top of what was a good performance the other day, I'm hoping that's enough for him to at least feel a little bit better about himself, because while we can all say about how well he plays, and it doesn't matter if he's not scoring, ultimately he's a striker and he's going to notice it himself, whether he can dress up as best as he can, but if he's not scoring goals, it's going to impact him. So that was good news. And then obviously we went 2-0 up.
Sorry, can we just before we leave that first goal, a couple of points. One, I thought he was man of the match on Saturday, Biamu. I thought Burge was fantastic, but I thought that having not been to a home game for quite some time, it was interesting to see how, I think a couple of months ago, I think perhaps especially the sort of the zenith of it was after the Morecambe game, was complaining about the team not having an identity or a plan, and that what's so evident now is he is now the plan. It just, everything is going through him, whether we like it or not. And I don't think he's playing like unbelievably well, but under the circumstances of where he's come from and what we're asking him to do, I'm not sure he could be doing much more. And I was really impressed with how he coped with everything on Saturday. I think and it's just really, really nice in an age of seeing people demand that we sign, £15 million players, not us necessarily. It's great recently to have seen, not just him, but in the wider sort of, in the Prem and stuff, to see players getting noticeably better over time. It's just, do you know what I mean? I just think that's something that's good. And the final thing on the first goal is the question that's clearly going to be on everyone's lips. Does that count as an assist for Maguire-Drew?
We opened that one again. Yes, it does, unfortunately, doesn't it? He'll take it though, won't he? I mean, I don't really follow him on Twitter, but you sort of thing that you imagine those young kids will certainly notch up. Great to get my first assist. I saw Jacob Murphy say that the other day for Newcastle, like a couple of weeks back. He said, "Great to get my first assist in the Premier League," and it's like, it's been 4 months, mate. Probably not something to brag about too much. I'd keep quiet about that if I was honest. I mean, if you've been there for 4 months and you've only just got an assist. Nah. I'll keep quiet myself.
Paul Maguire-Drew, does he get the assist?
Yeah. Why not? It's one of those. That one, I give the assist to Biami for winning the flick on as well. Sort of, but
I thought at the time that he had calculated it and it was a clever knockdown and that he'd used his body to block off one of the defenders to give Biamu the chance. And when I watched it back, I just realised that he did bring it down, but Biamu was not stopping for anybody, was he? There was no.
It was very much J-Tab to Misford. Remember that touch in the Old Trafford when it kind of, if you weren't concentrating, you think, oh, that's a good touch. And then you realise, nah, it's not a good touch at all, but it worked perfectly.
Yeah, Biamu was coming like a train, weren't he? I don't think there was anybody that was going to get out of his way for that. So I don't think it was a calculated knockdown so much as Biamu just had no intention of not smashing that as hard as he could. Anyway, sorry to butt in. Second goal.
Yeah. So it was a penalty. I think I've watched it a few more times now. I think one of those where, regardless of kind of the intricacies of it, he's going to get a penalty in that situation. He does well to speed onto the ball, good knockdown to himself, and then just got himself across the defender. And then at that point, you're kind of at the mercy of whose legs are going to get most tangled. And fortunately, he got the penalty and did what most players probably should do when they've missed a previous one, is just give it a bit of welly, smash it in. Especially with someone like Reece Charles Cook, who's of the ilk. He's a keeper who likes to guess. He's a guesser, not watch the ball and dive that way. Which there are two schools of thought in the goalkeeping when it comes to penalties, and I've always preferred, especially the way people seem to take penalties nowadays. It's just I'd much rather if I was a keeper just to kind of wait and go whatever the way they kick it, and if it's too hard and too fast, who cares? At least you don't look a prat because you've guessed the wrong way. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but yeah, it was just it was a good pen and got us 2-0 up, and we at that point it was a very interesting juncture. So we were feeling good about ourselves, and we could have potentially taken it on a little bit more. But I just think the nature of our performances this season kind of suggests that we're not quite that confident in our ability to go on and score more goals. So there was a sort of a natural tendency to kind of become a little bit more reserved. When you've got Michael Doyle in the team telling you off for being attacking, it makes it much harder for some of the younger kids around him to do anything too radical. I actually think Doyle had a really good game the other day. I mean, I've spoken earlier this season about the ups and downs of Doyle, and there's some games where he just doesn't seem bothered, and then some days where he really is bothered, and he really was quite bothered the other day, and he got booked for something daft. I'm not entirely sure what it was anymore, but it didn't really hinder him. I mean, he couldn't fly into tackles anymore, but he was still buzzing around, really getting into people and getting into the ref as well. And yeah, I mean, that was one of his proper captain performances, and it was it just, we had a lot of those performances in the team where there were players who were doing bad stuff and good stuff, and I think that was all the way through. But then there were players who were putting in that sort of stoke effort where if you are making mistakes, and even Burge, his kicking was the worst I've seen it for a long time, but he was doing everything. He was throwing himself into other stuff. He was making up for it. Another player, Stokes, I thought he was, again, that was probably the best I've seen him, and he made plenty of mistakes. But if you are making mistakes, do the things that you've got good control over. So work as hard as you can. Throw your body in the way of stuff. G up the younger kids. Do that. Do the other things. So at least if you do give the ball away, you do make sort of mistakes positionally, you can still kind of feel like you're still impacting the game in a positive way. So we 2-0 up, and then they scored. And I think we've already kind of touched on their goal. It was just dreadful defending. I think you can put it down to that. There was no real sort of structure in that defensive line at all. It was very much an opportunity for them to carve out a decent chance, and then for the guy just to put it in at the back post, seemingly unopposed. It was a disappointing, and it did set them up really. I mean, that they had an opportunity then to very quickly come back and bring it to 2-2 for half time, and then it's kind of anything goes really. You don't really know how it's going to go, but fortunately Burge pulled off an absolutely fantastic save, and it was one of those where fingertips are enough because the ball hit plumb on the crossbar. So if he doesn't get those fingertips on it, it's probably crossbar and in or straight in, and it was just really good timing by Burge to pull something out of the bag like that. So got us into half time, 2-1 up, and it's kind of a start again. Reset, slightly different game plan, and just see how you can kind of tackle the second half. And what we had in the second half, I think we saw a good Swindon team, a team that seemed to have a decent idea of what they were doing and who they are, against a team like us who were just really desperate for the win. And it was an incredible effort from us. And I kind of felt it was going to be a draw, or they'd snatch it just for the way it went. And there were a bunch of different sort of goal line scrambles, and it was just all great to see. I mean, I can't cheer a goal line scramble because I still wonder why they're getting so many chances. I still put it down to bad defending in a sense, but at the same time, if you're not defending well, defend well and do the other, chuck yourself in front of the ball. And that one defensive scramble where you had birds flying all over the place, Jordan Willis being a maniac on the goal line. I mean, that was fantastic, and that's kind of all they asked from him, really, isn't it? I mean, just put your body on the line for the shirt. Who gives them monkeys?
I think it gives you.
It's not tidy.
Sorry, I thought you were in there. I think it's that Xabi Alonso thing of him saying about he can't understand why the English are so obsessed with tackling. It's indicative of having made a mistake. And I agree, but I do think it gives you a bit, and maybe I'm over reading into something, I do think it gives you a bit of an idea of where the player's psyche is at. Because I think that we don't concede there because we wanted to not concede more than they wanted to score. And I think that there was enough players in that defence that their instinct was to just throw themselves at it hard. And I don't think you do that if you're not motivated to... I know that sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but do you know what I mean? Is that ultimately, that's when the ball is where it is there, that's a battle of wills about who's going to throw themselves hardest at it. I think it's disappointing that it gets down to that. But it was a little bit... You mentioned it in comparison to the Stoke game, and I saw elements of that in it as well. It looked like they just were working so hard to keep the ball out of the net, which is disappointing that it comes to that bit. But I have watched it back quite a lot of times because I was really quite impressed by their dedication to it.
And you can kind of see the difference in teams where they've very clearly got something to play for this season, and they've got this defensive record that they all seem really proud of. And then you compare that to other seasons where you just watch really sort of ponderous looking defences, and it's almost like going for the motions, and then the teams just almost walking the ball into the net, and there's just a different feel to it. And I mean, at the very least, if they can offer that level of care about the performance and their sort of defensive record over the rest of the season, I feel like that should be enough. I mean, it's very hard to kind of turn on a switch and just say, right, you must now care and shut yourself on the line all the time, because, like you say, it's part of a psyche. It's part of kind of how willing you are to get yourself involved in the match. And however much we wish they were like it every single game, it's just not the case. They're human beings. They adapt to the environment, and they react slightly differently depending on kind of the nature of the team they're within. So it's so important that we remain in that area where we're so close to the automatics that there is something very close and something very tangible for them to work towards. I mean, what happens, and we've seen it so often, is if the moment you do drop down and you fall quite far behind, it seems such a kick in the teeth. I don't know if it's just us or it's other teams, but it always seems to impact us so much harder than others, where it's just you watch the players and suddenly goals come far easier to the other team, and it's just not quite the same level of intensity. So, I mean, that's all I really want from them at the moment. It's just when we're playing on these boggy pitches and it's ugly games and stuff, just show that you really still want those 3 points and that you're prepared to do that sort of stuff, and then we can forgive the other things, because I think we're all at a point now where we've somewhat accepted the quality that we're having to put up with this season it's not fun in the sense where it's enjoyable to watch and you're watching great bits of skill all the time, but it's fun in the sense where there seems to be a closer alignment between the way we're feeling on the side of the pitch and the players on the pitch. There's kind of there's an empathy there where you're really immersed in it and you're invested in it, and you're seeing players doing the same thing, and it's a big deal to see that from a team. And And then, just to move me nicely on to the second half, obviously when you see players like Dion Kelly-Evans coming on, who, is he bigger? Is he bigger than his brother? Because he seems, I've got to say taller, that sounds ridiculous about him, but he seems a little bit taller and more of a man than his brother nowadays. And because I couldn't make him out on the side, so I thought it was the new guy. I was like, well, he's small, but he's not been completely dominated by Mark Robbins. So I wasn't too sure. And then even when he got onto the pitch, he still looked a little bit bigger, which is good news for him if he has grown a little bit, because it kind of takes some of that the irony out of people just laughing at him. But no, right, he came on, and he's another Cov player, and he threw in some good tackles and some sort of willing runs, and it's what we needed. I think in that second half we needed another player to come into it, and where the good players, so to speak, the Baylesses, weren't having their best games, and even that's I can take the positives from, because at least it grounds him and it grounds us a little bit as to what we can expect from this 18-year-old lad, and we shouldn't expect perfection, and he's given us almost perfection up to this point. So, having a lesser game is actually a good thing for everybody, so we can kind of rein ourselves in a little bit and kind of just acknowledge that he's still young, and he didn't have a great game, but that's not an issue. He'll come back and he'll probably have a good game next time out. And and just to wrap it off, really, just obviously the goal was, in my mind, a bonus. I didn't feel like we were going to get that winner. So McNulty to step up in the 80th minute and score another great goal for him. It was fantastic, and that was kind of like I say, it was a bonus for us. Suddenly we're back in the running, and I don't see this as a playoff thing. I'm still very much eyeing up those top three. I mean, we're in like a state of flux at the moment in that league, where it's kind of very hard to understand the patterns that are going on. So I'm quite happy to kind of just be where we are and be within touching distance, and then you can start to see the ebb and flow of things, and games in hand over other teams, and how if we beat Accrington and all these sort of things. I mean, everything changes game by game, but just being around, within a win or two of that top three is good for us. And as long as we kind of keep eyeing that up, keep putting the performances like we did against Swindon, then I'm feeling good about it.
Paul, are you feeling good about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously me and Joey sat next to each other, near each other during the game. I mean, I think it's a bit strange, because I think we were a bit fortunate in a way, because we scored with all three shots we had on target, and two of them were great strikes from outside the area. I mean, McNulty's finish is just brilliant in terms of the time he had, the proximity he was to players around him, and to pick out the corner was exquisite. And you're like, that's brilliant. And Neil identified there were loads of positives out of the game. And also, I think one of the other positives is I thought Swindon are a good side. And it was the first time, and I'm not sure if it was you, Joey, or someone else who said I think it was yourself, who said it was the first time this season there seems to be a game going on between two teams where you could have said, this isn't a League Two game, this is almost a League One game, which isn't the world's greatest standard of football, but is a higher standard than we're used to.
Wow, and it's so stark for this season, isn't it? Is that I haven't seen, I mean, I know I've been to some bad games, but that it looked so low in quality, and I was quite impressed with Swindon, and I thought that we stepped up to them, and I think we played the game correctly to win it, but by far it was the much highest standard I've seen so far this season. Yeah,
I think it's forward bewildering. I felt a bit not sorry for Swindon. I thought Swindon played well, and I didn't think they deserved to be. If they'd have won that game or come away with a draw, you couldn't have criticised. I don't think you could have criticised us if we hadn't have won that game. I think Swindon played really well, and one thing that completely baffled me in the second half was they kept making substitutions, and each substitution they made was of a striker and seemed to drag them backwards. And their number 22 in the first half gave Jordan Willis the absolute runaround at times, and they took him off, and you were like, oh, okay, you've taken off the one player who was actually sort of as quick as Jordan Willis and was making Jordan Willis have quite a poor games. And now you're just going to play in front of us. We can deal with that. And basically, they sort of handed the initiative back to us with some really strange substitutions. I think there were lots of positive forms. On the Tom Bayliss thing, Swindon played 3-5-2. And it was the first time Bayliss came up against three midfielders. And you could see that he just didn't have time, but he doesn't have the options either. And you just thought, and then as the game went on, he sort of mentally worked out how to play and which play and where he's, because obviously if they play 3-5-2, there's always a free outlet for Cov. It's like normally the fullbacks, and you could see that he was beginning to work that out as the game went on. You could see him sort of mentally working out, where are my options, where can I go, what's my easy outlet ball, and I thought he sort of adapted to that struggle that he had in the first half and really came through. The strike partnership between Biamu and McNulty is working, clearly working, and we're benefiting from that. The penalty, you're just watching the Swindon guy going, what are you doing? But at least that was their defender making a stupid error, not ours at last. I thought at the end of the first half, Grimmer and Willis just went to absolute pot. And we was just, as I said earlier, I thought Burge, that save really saved us, because there were two times where both of them, just like basic defending of, you're stood behind your man who's facing the touchline. Why are they now having a shot on target? Like, that, you've got them exactly where in the coaching manual you're told you want to have them. Why have you let them get away? And it's those are the things I think, as Neil said, I think we've got a good defensive record, but at times you're like, how have we kept that? How have we managed to only concede one goal in this game? Because we can't give teams that many opportunities. Swindon will be kicking themselves. They missed some quite decent opportunities, far better opportunities than the goals we scored. So I think there is definitely sort of improvements we made, but also think that's sort of time where you really need someone like Dorr to go around and say, look, we've only got 5 minutes to hold out here. Don't do that pass. Don't, calm down a little bit. So, it was a good, I think the main thing was it was a thoroughly enjoyable game of football, which isn't something we can say that often this season. And the fact that you've got 3 or 4 players you could legitimately say were man of the match is really pleasing. So, I think Milton Keynes Dons are definitely there for the beating on Saturday. And then you go into the Cambridge game hopefully full of confidence. And once you get, we're talking about going on a run. I think we've only lost one of the last 6 or 7 or something like that now.
I think it's 2 of the last 6 league games. I think we've won 4 of the last 6.
Yeah, so we just need to keep that momentum, because, we're getting, I think after the next couple of games, we've got a couple of easy-ish games, and then we've got a run of 5 really tricky ones. And we need to be going into that run of 5 tricky games full of confidence. And then, obviously, we've got the week left of the transfer window, which we just need to make sure that we keep people like Bayliss. I think we need to make sure that we keep him for the rest of the season, because he's just a class act, isn't he? I mean, you watch him, you're just like this. Even when he isn't particularly good, he still stands out as being better than most.
Do you think we need to announce Baker?
I saw him. As I say, he's walking.
We did as well, actually, yeah.
Yeah, wandering around. I find it weird. I just think, not that he should get mobbed, but he can just walk around the stadium absolutely fine. Nobody talking to him. Maybe that's just people being nice to other people and not interrupting them. But it's like Carl Baker walking there next to me, and even I just didn't say anything. Just let him live his life.
I'd be concerned. I think my problem with signing Baker is, A, I worry it could be a distraction for everyone, but B, he's 35. He's been injured. Like, he hasn't played all season, basically. And we've done this with Stephen Hunt. And it's just sort of... I think it's just a gamble where if it works and he comes on and scores the odd goal, it's brilliant. But is it best to just accept the fact that maybe we need to move on?
No is the answer. Let's bring Carl Baker. In fact, let's just bring everyone back. Let's bring Gary McSheffrey back. That's the answer to that one. I'm being flippant, obviously. I've no idea how good he is. I just think it's funny how the huge groundswell of support of bringing him back in is. But I always think that stuff's funny. Okay, shall we get a word from Dominic about the MK Dons game, and then we will wrap up with some listener questions. Hello, Dominic.
Hiya, how's it going?
Not too bad at all. A cup game on Saturday, which makes us wonder whether this is a worthwhile enterprise, because we all know that form goes out of the window for cup games, don't they?
I know, it's a lottery.
Yeah, I wondered if you had any more cliches, but you've managed to preempt it by saying it's a lottery, which I think typically reserved for penalty shootouts, but delighted to hear it in the context of cup games. Aside from that, how about some analysis? What can we expect from them?
So, well, it's been a pretty poor season for MK Dons thus far. Over the summer, when they had Robbie Nielsen in charge, they invested quite a lot of money in a number of proven League One performers, and it's just not worked out at all. Nielsen, who, if anyone remembers, I think he had a short trial here, because he was basically a friend of Stephen Presley's, and he was sort of training here to keep fit around the time he went to Sixfields. He got Hearts promoted, and they were doing fairly well in the Scottish Premiership, and when MK Dons appointed him last season, it looked like a bit of a coup, someone who probably could have gone into a championship job based on what he'd done in Scotland, but it just never got going for him. And the issue for MK Dons this season was just an inability to score. They've scored, I think, 29 goals in 28 league games this season, and given the attacking talent they have in their squad, it just wasn't good enough. And at the weekend, they lost 2-1 to Northampton, dropped into the bottom four, and that was it for Nielsen.
So a good time to play them? Any news on who might be coming in there?
Yeah, so yesterday they appointed a manager in Dan Michiche, which I think it's pronounced, sort of a bit of an unknown, someone who'd worked in the club's youth setup and had been involved in the England under-16 team. So he's got some knowledge of the club. He's used to working with young players, but it's a massive risk to appoint someone with zero experience managing a senior men's team. The club in the middle of a relegation battle, although it's quite a talented squad where I think if anyone can get them going, they could really be pushing up the league and next season knocking on the door to promotion in the Championship.
You talked about a wealth of attacking talent. Do you want to give us some names of players that to look out for?
So they have MK Dons basically have a collection of like 6'3", 6'4" strikers. Osman Sow, who was with Robbie Nielsen at Hearts and was about a 1-2 striker up in Scotland. They got Ike Ugbo, who was a goal machine with Chelsea at youth level over the past couple of seasons. Robbie Muirhead, who's sort of more of a target man. Kieran Agard, who scored 20 goals a few seasons ago in League One with Rotherham. Chucks Nike, who is sort of their most talented attacking player, sort of a bit like, if anyone remembers, J. Emmanuel Thomas, just a big but skillful player who's you don't know whether to try and close down or try and give him a bit of space and for fear of getting pushed off the ball. But he's suspended for this game after picking up a red card in basically the final minute of their last game. So that's a bit of a boon for us. They've also got pace out wide. Aidan Nesbitt, who was a big prospect with Celtic, who's done very well for them this season. I've got Callum Britton at fullback, who's looking like a big prospect this season. So a range of pace and power up front. They've got some quality in midfield too, with Ed Upson, who's a box-to-box player, and Alex Gilby, who's more of a sort of foot on the ball player in the centre of the park.
So it sounds like, from what you're saying, quite a talented squad, hugely underperforming from where you'd expect them.
Yeah, I think the problem was under Nielsen. I watched them hit a couple of times, and just from the highlights, the pace of their play was just so slow, and they weren't really getting numbers in the box. So it was just an absolute chore for them to score. So as soon as anyone scored against them, they really struggled to move up the gears.
They sound perfectly suited for League Two then. How do you think we'll get on?
I think this is going to be a very difficult game for us. It's going to be a bit of an acid test, really, for maybe how we do in League One, where we get promoted without sort of jumping the gun there. But I think, given the nature of this side, given the way we sort of played up to the bigger occasions, I wonder whether we might be suited to playing against a team who are going to be looking to be proactive about the game, get on the ball, impress their new manager, utilise their attacking threats, and I wonder whether we can just do a sort of classic Robins performance where we stymie the threat through the middle and nick something at the other end. So I think we could win this 1-0.
Nice. I mean, that is the kiss of death, unfortunately, but I'm inclined to
everyone wear your T-shirts.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like a little bit like against Stoke, where the higher leagueness seems to be offset somewhat by how horrid they've been recently, or sort of semi-recently. Before you go, I wanted to ask you, they are an unpopular club for obvious reasons, MK Dons. How do you feel about that 14 years on?
So when I used to write about MK Dons, I used to put Dons in quotation marks, which I stopped doing just because it seemed a bit wanky, to be honest. It was just like, what's the point? I think, obviously, it's an absolute travesty they exist. I don't understand why they had to take Wimbledon away to have a league football club in Milton Keynes. You'd think, given the money that was behind Milton Keynes Dons, that they could just have bought like a non-league club like Wigan or Fleetwood have done and moved into League One and Championship, and no one would be really bothered about it. But given the sort of downward trajectory they're on, given that AFC Wimbledon are now an established league club, it kind of feels like, well, we're kind of even after all the crap that's happened.
Yeah, I read When Saturday Comes still, and in their season previews, they still they've asked questions of every fan in the Football League about how the teams are going to do, and every year it cracks me up that they just says MK Dons and underneath it says no questions asked. They just refuse to acknowledge their existence. But you do wonder after 14 years how long it is to hold on to, especially when with no vested interest in Wimbledon. But I still think it still galls me, obviously. Okay, well, good stuff then. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you next week.
Right, speak to them.
Okay, thanks, Dominic. Okay, then, let's get some questions for you guys.
Just on MK Dons, while we've been talking about it, are either of you two going?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, it's such a strange one, because you think back to when we played them in League One, and even then you could still get tickets on the day. You could turn up and you get a ticket in the ground. But this time around, I mean, what I found really strange, I'm not a season ticket holder this season, so I've probably taken that for granted over the other years. So I had to wait. And what I actually did was bought a membership just to be sure. Just thought, I'll get that extra day in. And yeah, me and my dad have got all like stubs from all 3 rounds of the FA Cup. So I thought, well, I'm a member and we've got all 3 rounds of the FA Cup. That should be enough to get a ticket. No, we weren't able to. I had to get a fair few. I mean, I had a few friends who wanted one as well, so I was already online on the morning, and I was clicking away, and the site wasn't working and all that sort of stuff. And before I could get any, they were all gone, and I just found it. I mean, it's great that everybody wants to go, but at the same time, it's just a bit annoying. I couldn't get anything. Fortunately, my mates made money and decided just go for hospitality, so now I get to go. I'm going to hospitality, and so I am going. That'll be fun. I get a carvery, which will be great. But it was just how easily whipped up into the excitement of stuff our fans are when something good comes along. So I mean, I'm glad that everybody, we're taking a bunch of people. It's just a bit peculiar. I've never been in a position where I haven't been able to get a ticket before, and even me, getting up early. 9 o'clock, all ready to go. Computer whiz, 20 browsers open. Still wasn't able to get them.
And you're a big noise.
you would have thought that would be an influence
you've
over
won,
it, wouldn't
You've
you?
won awards for being a Cov fan.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
And yet, yeah, but I didn't buy a season ticket. And the daft thing is, I probably spent more on tickets this season already than the season ticket would have cost me. I'm there spending 25 quid a game, every game. Oh, I'll go again. I've already bought my next 2 tickets. I've got the 5 ticket as well. But, it was my own fault. And I don't really know why I didn't get one, but I didn't.
But it's what makes you a true fan. The highest level of fan is by deliberately paying full walk-up price cash on the thing.
Every game.
Giving as much as you physically can. That's the real quiz, isn't it?
Well, exactly. It doesn't help that my dad, obviously, he gets senior prices. So it's easier for him just, I'm going next week, I'm going. And I, through obligation, obviously want to go as well, forgetting that it costs me 25 quid every single time. Or 22 or whatever it is.
I just want to go back to that sentence. Through obligation, want to go as well is an interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure Freud would be able to decode that.
Oddly accurate. And I don't know how.
I think that probably goes for every Cov fan that's got a season ticket could probably describe that as their habit. Okay, should we do some questions? Jack Greenfield, one for you. Let's take it in turns. Paul, you take this one. How many goals would Biamu have to score between now and the end of the season for it to be considered he's had a good return?
As discussed, if he doesn't score any more and we get in the playoffs and McNulty carries on his current scoring form, I don't think it really matters. I think it's as long as the strikers are scoring, then who's scoring them, I'm less interested in. So he does need to score in tight games, but I don't want to put a figure on it. I think, as I said, unfortunately, in the olden days when you sign players, you gave them a season to settle in, and I almost think if we didn't get promoted this season, Biama McNulty would probably destroy League 2 next season anyway. I think as he's going forward, he's showing more and more. And I think this season, his first season in league football, to actually progress the way he has, I think he deserves a lot of credit. Unfortunately, modern game, you don't get that time to adjust. So I'm just, as long as he's playing like he is and we're winning, whether or not he scores is probably less important.
Paul, you've actually preempted a question from Chris Downs that I'm now going to throw to Neil, who says, the gulfing standard between League 1 and League 2 is obviously apparent. Given our playing squad and style, is our team better suited to League 1 and League 2? Chris is demanding back-to-back promotion, so hopefully your answer is yes, Neil, that's what he says.
Yes, I demand back-to-back promotions, but, details. I don't think we're good enough. This group of players is necessarily good enough for League One in the sense where I think there's a lot of poor quality and intermittent naffness about our play. I think we're within this league, we've got enough to get out of it. Whether that can be sustained in a high level, I don't know, because I think the point that Chris makes about there being a gulf is absolutely true. There is a gulf, and that's why we went down last season. And by rights, you could look at this squad and think that is it weaker? Is it stronger than last year? It's hard to say, but no, I just think obviously we need to go up. We absolutely need to go up because it's just not fun, and we've got enough to get out of this league. And then next year, if we do go up, then obviously there's a job to do in terms of building something that's more suitable to the league above.
Out of interest, who do you think, and not an exhaustive list perhaps, but off the top of your head, who are the players that you think would be able to cut it in League One?
I think players like Bayliss, oddly, someone like Ben Stevenson has shown that it's weird because it's still League One and it's not very good, but there's just something he's shown an ability in that level. Jordan Willis, there we go. The goalkeeper, he can do it in League One. And I'd find it interesting to see how someone like Mark McNulty would get on there as well.
Paul, any names to add to that? Anyone that you disagree with?
I don't know. We're watching it. We're watching, McNulty is scoring some fantastic goals at the moment. Yeah, he's still showing some touches of which are a bit like when he should have gone through in the second half, and you were just like, really should have done better with that. And there was a couple of other times where I accept the fact he's a fantastic finisher of a football. I'm still yet to see a really good footballer. Defence, I'm still not convinced by Jordan Willis at a high level. I saw him at a high level, was never really overly impressed. The defence does worry me against if we were played against better teams, because I just think goal scorers would rattle against that defence. We do seem to give teams an awful lot of time at times. And I do think if Swindon have had better strikers, they would have walked away with they would have walked away with at least another 2 goals. So I think there is rebuilding work to be done if we do get promoted. I think, but we've got, you could add 1 or 2 players. I wouldn't ditch anyone as such. I'd just use them as squad players and build on top of what we've got. I'd get rid of Tom Davis, because I just think at a high level you need someone with a footballing brain.
Oh, that's a bit mean. He's been good.
Yeah, he's fine.
Paul had one of them, the lady doth protest too much days on Saturday, where he would say, I actually think I haven't got any problem with Tom Davis, and then spend about 10 minutes chastising anything where the ball came anywhere near him, which I think probably was.
He did that one thing in the first half, didn't he? Where me and you were arguing, and I think you were arguing over something completely different from what I was saying. You were saying, well, he's made the right decision, and it was like, I wasn't talking about the decision he made. It was clearly his inability to kick a ball cleanly.
Yeah, for context, there was a moment in the first half where the ball sort of came over his shoulder pretty much, and it felt like, even a slightly better defender might have sort of got it under control and either looked for the keeper or looked for someone else. But that he, presumably under orders, and I thought fair enough, was worried that someone might be behind him and tried to just boot it into the stand, didn't he? But he kind of got a bit tangled and it came off the tip of his boot and sort of rolled out for a corner. And yeah, you're right. It's, it was bad enough that he had to take the safe option and get rid of it. But even then, sort of the horror that he made of it, yeah, it was a bit underwhelming. But I didn't think he was particularly good on Saturday. I just found it funny the fact that you kept caveating the criticism of him by saying, I haven't got a problem with him, but then would violently just be like, the man can't pass a ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine when you want him to. If there was, of all the commentary players I've ever seen, he's probably in the top 5 players I know would throw his face in front of a football
before his foot as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there was another one in the second half where he had loads of time, but he sort of got under the ball and headed it out for a corner, and you were just like, just stop doing things that. Yeah, it's a bit like I didn't think Grimmer had a particularly good game, but I think it was really emphasised in the second half where he was running for the ball to the touchline, and you were like, we discussed this, like the only thing surely going through his head is don't foul the guy, and then you just pushed him to the floor, and you were like, everyone in the crowd is watching you running for the ball with that guy, especially the referee. When you've got both arms on his back and you clearly push him, the referee's going to give a free kick against you. And you were just like, just don't do stupid things. just run with him. Just the worst, they're going to get a throw in. It's like, that's not the end of the world here. Just don't push him over. And there were just quite a few things like that where it's like, you can get away with that at times in League Two. Just stupid decisions, but I'm not sure you can get away with it as easily in League One.
No, probably not. Question from Simon Jackson that I'm going to condense down a little bit. Hypothetical question around if Madders was sold, James Maddison, of course. I take it we can just say Madders and everyone knows what's going on there, can't we?
I call him James.
Jimmy. Madders is sold. We get 250 grand for it. What position or positions would you focus on before the end of the window, and in January should we be promoted?
We'll get loads more than that, won't we?
It depends. I think. How would you? Do we know what the sell-on clause is?
Yeah, I don't. Even if we got like 100 million, I don't think the football club are going to give Mark Robbins more than 250,000. Even if
yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, if the fact is they sold people like Jacob Murphy and that for in the teens of millions, this guy's going to go for, if you do the selling, it'll be the same. And we've got a decent we're talking like 15-20%, haven't we, or something? I would have thought with my Football Manager brain on.
I tweeted some Norwich fans fairly recently to say, "What's your take on him?" I'm sure one of them said it was not going to matter because he's going to go to Everton for 20 million. I think
they've all got that in their heads, haven't they?
Yeah,
got
I think
that sort
it's
of number in their head.
I think that's the sort of price that you're probably looking for him, because I think he's been their player of the month every month so far this year, and I think it's beyond a joke how good he's been in the Championship. There's been Guardian articles written about him, and he is pretty much the real deal, isn't he?
And what was funny, he had possibly his worst ever game I've seen him play on BBC One, and yet he was still getting a load of praise from people who've not really seen him before. Yeah. So that's kind of the level you're playing at, where if you can play poorly by your standards and still be seen as probably the best player in the Norwich team, then obviously there's something very special there. And just on a side note, but related, I am so pissed off with Aberdeen fans hijacking our love for him. He was there for 3 months. Yeah. It doesn't count. I mean, in a few years' time, it doesn't matter. And he's like, once a done, always a done. Shut up. It's nothing to do with you. He scored a couple of good goals and he had a good time up there. But they're just misappropriating his love for it. Not on.
I saw a lot of their fans complaining about him. But you just think, back off. He's ours.
It's nothing to do with him.
I would really like to see. I know we are sort of gradually turning this into the James Maddison show, but in case anybody thinks that that's not deliberate, it is 100% deliberate. Did anyone see anything of Tottenham the other night?
No, I missed that game.
They were Eriksson-less, and I don't think they quite knew how to deal with it. I would love to see him go to Tottenham and sort of play understudy to Eriksson, and then be a direct replacement where he wasn't in, because I think they're reasonably similar, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd hate him to go to Everton under Allardyce. Allardyce, he would just Joe Cole him. He'd just make him do all the stuff that you don't need James Maddison doing. It doesn't matter. I don't need James Maddison trying to tackle from a team. He just wouldn't get him at all.
And their problem is they've got loads of number 10s as well. It seemed like an odd place to be linked to. That's that. Let's do one more then. Neil mentioned about Stevenson being one of the players that might be better suited to League One should we go up. The question from Scott Keane for Paul this time is, would you sell Stevenson in this window or not?
I probably would, in terms of if it meant we kept Bayliss, and then I'd use that money to bring in another centre midfielder with a bit more experience.
Or to buy a cloning machine and put Doyle in it.
That was sorry. Is that almost too concise?
Yeah. Okay, right. I think we're all done then. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can email neelamptyshow@gmail.com, or you can do us on Twitter @neelamptyshow. Do we have any other business before we wrap this bad boy up?
I think we should praise the club for doing the £5 thing.
Oh, yeah. Praise the club then.
We talk about this a lot. They've done it. They've made tickets a £5. They've said they're going to fill one of the stands with school kids. They've given there's no excuse. Well, I mean, there are lots of excuses that people will always come up with about Sisu. Whether or not you think they're valid or not, that's up to you. However, if you're not in the not one penny more group and you are prepared to go and spend money on the football club, a £5 is a really good deal. Apparently they're going to have a fans zone in the day as well to make it more of a family atmosphere. The Accrington game is probably the perfect one because they're a good side from what we saw. It's a big game against a side who play all right football. I mean, if you compare what they're doing to what Wasps and the council have agreed, which is basically the day before one of our games, they're gonna basically play 2 games of women's rugby at the Rico, which will make the pitch even more unplayable towards later on. So remember, in the sort of who do we hate most, remember that the council sold the ground to Wasps and they play rugby on our pitch, which is going to make it a bit of a basket case towards the end of the season. Not that I have an agenda, but I still think that's a bunch of bastards. Just Mark Robbins has said in the last couple of weeks, we need to put things behind us. We've only won, I think Jim's saying we've only won 5 promotions in our entire history. we're in a really good position with 4 points off second place with a game in hand. These opportunities don't come around that often. Maybe we should try and enjoy the last 18 games as much as we can.
This feels like it's come really good timing, because we argued on here, and probably more in real life, sort of via text or whatever, about the Stoke game and the economics of what you would charge for that game. And my argument was, it makes me sad that they charged what they charged, but it's based on evidence that when you drop the price, it doesn't have enough impact to make it worthwhile. And this is an absolute opportunity for everybody to band together and show that when the price drops, we will turn up. And for it to be £5 and there to be so many tickets given away for free, it's almost incumbent on everybody who complained about the price of the Stoke ticket, and everyone else just generally, to go to show that when the price drops, we will turn up. Because otherwise there's no justification for them to do it, isn't it? I just really think that this, with how big a game it is, and the fact that we're doing okay-ish, well, no, we were doing okay, aren't we? I really, really, really don't think there's no excuse for there to not be mid-20s going. £5. So it was really fascinating to see how many people turn up. And like you say, the fan village that's been announced today, I just think it seems like it's a really, really good, positive, fabulous thing. I just hope that we sort of do our bit to make it as big a success as it could be. Good thing to bring up. Anything else?
No, that's it. Well, we had a good handshake, didn't we, Joey? That was good.
Oh, it was rock solid, yeah. A non-stop handshake, a pass by, firm grip. It's probably the best thing I've ever been involved with. Yeah. Okay, I've told you where to get in touch with us. Paul, thank you very much.
Cheers, matey.
Neil, thank you.
Thank you both.
And thank you, listener. Bye.